cheap is not a word that applies.
The watch is often blurred. However, when you come to Guangzhou, you cannot see any problem just by looking at the appearance. What you need to be careful about is that the low quality movement inside will be sold at a high price.
My suggestion is you can try it first or buy it for a legal way. I'm Sean. See you next time.
You pay $4,400 for a Metas Tudor Black Bay monochrome. You pay almost $10,000 for a Rolex Submariner. And a Royal Oak extra thin, it costs like $36,000.
Okay, here's the full script from the previous prompt, without any section titles or markers, formatted as a single continuous block of text suitable for narration. Imagine dropping $10,000 on a Rolex Submariner, maybe $15,000 on an Omega, or a staggering $36,000 on a Royal Oak from Audemars Piguet. Crazy money, right? But you justified it. You told yourself it was an investment, that you were paying for those legendary Swiss craftsmen, decades of expertise passed down through generations, handcrafted precision in some idyllic mountainside workshop. At least that's the glossy fantasy they've been selling us.
Asking y'all should receive. Tisa, where are the watch manufacturers? I did some digging and I found the watch manufacturers. There is a new scandal coming out of the luxury watch division. Listen, if you want to keep going to Rolex, if you want to keep going to AP and spending your money, go and do that. However, industry insiders are coming out, and I have their videos. People have even been fired from it for lifting the hood away from the...
It's a beautiful story, isn't it? A narrative carefully constructed over a century, designed to make you believe you're buying unparalleled quality, history, and exclusivity. The very essence of luxury distilled into something you wear on your wrist, the kind of thing you pass down to your children. But what if I told you that entire fantasy is just that? A beautiful lie. What if the truth about where your luxury watch really comes from would make you question everything you thought you knew about high-end timepieces? Because that's exactly what's happening right now, and the evidence is piling up faster than these brands can hide it. Let me take you somewhere the luxury watch brands desperately don't want you to see. Forget the snow-capped mountains, the quaint workshops, the romantic image of Swiss valleys. The real watch capital of the world is Shenzhen, China. Yes, China, not Geneva. And this isn't some fringe conspiracy theory peddled in dark corners of the internet. The numbers don't lie. Industry data shows over 95% of the world's watches and watch components come from China. And before you dismiss this as just cheap street vendor knockoffs, understand this: the picture is far, far more complex and far more devastating to the luxury narrative.
Most Swiss watches are actually made in China, and the reason that replicas often look just as good as the original is that they are made in the same factory.
Industry insiders, former employees, and even brave whistleblowers are finally speaking out, and what they're revealing is frankly mind-blowing. Those perfectly finished high-end dials on your Rolex, the incredibly clear sapphire glass on your Omega, the virtually scratch-proof ceramic bezels on your Tudor, those intricate heavy bracelets on your Tag Heuer. Many, if not most, of these critical components are coming from massive state-of-the-art factories in China that operate on a scale Switzerland simply could never match. 95% of the world's watches are made here, explains one factory tour guide in a viral video from Guangdong province, showing off rows of precision machinery. Many big brand watches are produced or sourced for parts from here. This place is Shenzhen City, the world watch capital city. And this leads us to perhaps the sneakiest deception of all, that little Swiss-made label. You see that inscription at the bottom of the dial? It screams luxury, quality, heritage, and supposedly justifies that massive price tag. But it's basically a marketing gimmick built on a loophole so slick, it would make a politician blush. Under current Swiss law, a watch only needs 60% of its value to be generated in Switzerland to legally carry that coveted Swiss-made label. Not 60% of the physical watch, mind you, but 60% of the value. And what counts as value? Marketing budgets, research and development, branding, design work, or get this, literally just installing the movement inside a case once it arrives from a factory halfway across the world. So imagine a factory in Shenzhen makes the watch case, the bracelet, the dial, the hands, the bezel, and even ships it fully assembled. Then some technician in Switzerland opens the package, drops in a pre-made movement, which itself might contain components sourced globally, polishes the case, runs some quick quality checks, closes it up, and boom, it's officially Swiss made. That minimal process is often enough to transform something largely built in China into a luxury Swiss timepiece that commands a price tag 5, 10, or even more times higher than its actual production cost. The entire luxury industry plays this game, explains one former watch industry employee who claims he was abruptly fired shortly after he started asking inconvenient questions about component origins dating back decades. He's not alone. Whistleblowers are coming forward with receipts, literal photos of high-end watch components shipped from Chinese factories, destined for watches selling for tens of thousands. One former quality control specialist claims he was repeatedly pressured to approve components that didn't meet the brand's own published standards because meeting production quotas was deemed more important than the impeccable craftsmanship they advertised.
Watches come in different sizes. A small dial makes your wrist slimmer, while a large one makes you a stronger arrow. First of all, you need to determine your budget range. The Rolex data just is the best choice for cost-effective.
I'm going to fire Harold. Why? The watch is a fake.
What's fake about it?
According to the serial number,
It doesn't correspond to that watch.
You might be thinking, if this is all true, why haven't major watch magazines, blogs, and reviewers exposed it? Follow the money, people. Luxury watch brands pour millions into magazine advertising every year. Those glossy full-page ads and prestigious watch publications. They pay the bills, watch bloggers and influencers. They get flown first class to Switzerland, gifted free watches worth thousands or tens of thousands, and pampered at exclusive brand events with open bars and 5-star hotels. Would you risk your next free Rolex, your lavish press trips, and your entire relationship with the brands that feed you just to tell the truth? The conflict of interest here is absolutely staggering, which is precisely why it's fallen to independent content creators, anonymous factory workers posting videos, and brave whistleblowers leaking internal documents to finally lift the curtain and show what's really happening behind the luxury fantasy. The influencers are paid to smile and keep it very cute. One insider flatly states, nobody's going to risk their next free Rolex to drop the receipts. And that's exactly how so many consumers have been kept in the dark about where their watches truly come from and what they actually cost to produce. But the internet has changed everything. Factory workers in China are now posting detailed videos online. Watch enthusiasts are doing side-by-side comparisons of components. Industry insiders are leaking damning information. And the scandal has gotten so loud, so undeniable, that something truly unprecedented has happened. Rolex, the most secretive and untouchable brand in the industry, is actually responding. Not with words, of course. Rolex would never admit what's happening publicly, but they're responding with action. Quiet price cuts of up to 20% on select models, particularly those that are most heavily replicated or copied in the super clone scene, like the iconic Submariner, certain GMT Master 2s, and some Oyster Perpetuals. Of course, they didn't announce it with a big press release or a sale sign. Rolex never goes on sale, right? That would instantly damage the carefully guarded prestige. Instead, they played it slick. Prices were subtly adjusted, mostly through authorized dealers in specific markets. But the people who track this stuff, the dealers, the enthusiasts, the market analysts, they noticed immediately. And the timing? Right after a wave of viral Chinese exposés showing incredibly high-quality Rolex-style cases, bezels, and bracelets being boxed and shipped en masse from Guangdong warehouses. Coincidence? I highly doubt it. Brands simply do not cut prices without an extremely compelling reason, especially not Rolex, a company whose entire business model relies on artificial scarcity, ever-increasing demand, and luxury exclusivity. For them to quietly adjust prices during a very public, social media-fueled supply chain scandal, that tells you everything you need to know about how serious this situation has become.
Perpetuals.
You want to start adding Rolex to your collection? These are the 5 cheapest Rolex watches that you can buy right now. First one, we got the 36mm Datejust 16220 with the engine turn bezel, and it's worth around $6,500. The next watch is a 36mm Datejust 16014 with the blue dial and fluted bezel. This one is priced at around $6,200.
Let's take a deeper look at what's actually happening inside these Chinese watch factories that has the luxury giants so terrified. side. Thanks to brave filmmakers and industry insiders taking risks, we're getting unprecedented glimpses behind these previously closed doors. And what we're seeing might shock you if you still imagine dingy sweatshops. These aren't that. They are often high-tech facilities equipped with cutting-edge machinery. Workers wear clean room suits as they assemble microscopic components. Modern CNC machines cut case parts with astonishing precision down to microns. Quality control processes involve multiple stages of sophisticated testing and inspection. The key difference? Labor costs, overhead, and regulatory burdens are a mere fraction of what they would be in Switzerland or Europe. In one viral video, a factory manager proudly showcases their capabilities. Factory that offer a wider range of styles to choose from, maintain strict production standards, and can support customization starting from just 50 pieces. He adds, what you should worry about them are just middlemen. You contact them directly. And that contact them directly is exactly what's happening now, which is truly what has the luxury brands panicking. Consumers, frustrated by sky-high prices and artificial scarcity, are bypassing the official channels. They're connecting with these factories via private Telegram groups, WeChat accounts, WhatsApp numbers. Entire watch factories are now effectively selling custom luxury builds, using the same materials, techniques, and often the same suppliers, for a fraction of the retail price. They aren't even calling them replicas anymore. They're using terms like factory homage, same line release, parallel build, and unbranded OEM, original equipment manufacturer. It's their way of saying wink wink, nudge nudge, yes, we made it, and yes, we probably made it for the big guys too, but we're not allowed to say we made it for Rolex, officially. One whistleblower even claimed that some Chinese suppliers receive excess materials from official luxury brand orders, and instead of tossing them, they finish the builds and sell them under the table. Not fakes, not dupes, potentially the same components, built on the same machines, perhaps just without the final, heavily marked up brand inspection stamp and the Swiss-made loophole application. This direct-to-consumer revolution, fueled by the internet, is the existential threat luxury brands face, because their entire business model depends on that absolutely massive markup between the cost to produce the item and the final retail price. When consumers can get virtually the same quality from potentially the same source for 10% of the price, the luxury illusion doesn't just crack, it starts to crumble. So, what is the actual cost to make these luxury watches? Let's break down the numbers that industry insiders are sharing. A watch that retails for $6,000 might cost between $7,200 and $2,500 to produce. That's less than 25% of the retail price. Some brands are more transparent. Christopher Ward, a British brand, openly states they never charge more than 3 times production cost. Omega charges around 4 times. But Rolex, experts believe it's 5 times or higher. Now, to be fair, these profit margins, while substantial, aren't as outrageous as some other industries. Major luxury groups like Swatch, Richemont, and LVMH often see operating profit margins between 10% and 20% on their watch divisions. Compare that to tech giants like Apple at 32% or Microsoft at 38%, and suddenly the watch industry doesn't seem quite as predatory at the corporate group level. But here's the rub, Rolex stays notoriously private about their finances. They're technically a non-profit foundation, which means they don't have to disclose financial details publicly. Convenient, right? But industry analysts estimate they rake in somewhere between $5 and $8 billion in revenue annually, with profit margins that would make most businesses weep with envy. Now, let's be clear, I am absolutely not saying you should rush out and buy cheap replicas. There is still a massive difference in quality between a $60 fake and a genuine luxury timepiece, or even a high-quality homage. Those $60 Rolex copies might look okay in an Instagram story with soft lighting and no zoom, but the inside is dramatically, laughably different. The movement, the very heart of the watch, is usually some off-brand, mass-produced part that ticks loudly, unreliably, and inaccurately, nowhere near the smooth sweep and precision of a real Swiss automatic movement. The steel quality is poor, water resistance is practically non-existent, your fake Rolex might fog up just from humid air or washing your hands, and the metal is often cheap alloys that feel wrong and scratch easily. The luminous material barely glows, the weight feels off, and the finishing is nowhere near the level of authentic pieces. As one watch enthusiast correctly explains, that one thing alone is more than enough for you all to understand why you all should not be wearing a fake. Self-confidence, guys. Once you wear a fake, your confidence is not the same as you wear original. Because once you wear a fake and you walk into a place where there's a lot of people who love watches, people who wear the original are gonna figure out it's a fake. But here's where things get really interesting and cause the biggest headache for luxury brands. There's a rapidly growing middle ground in the watch world. Chinese factories aren't just making cheap knockoffs anymore. They're creating what industry insiders call super clones or mirror quality pieces. These are watches that aim for near perfect external replication and often use genuine Swiss movements, high-end Japanese movements, or extremely accurate Chinese-made clone movements inside high-quality Chinese-made cases, dials, and bracelets. These watches aren't $60 fakes, but they're not $10,000 either. They typically sell for somewhere between $300 and $700. That's just 5% to 10% of the price of the genuine article. And to the untrained eye, and sometimes even to enthusiasts or experts without opening the case back, they are virtually indistinguishable from the real thing. The finishing is impressive, the materials are high-quality stainless steel and ceramic, and they often use movements that look and feel very similar to the originals. This tier is causing absolute chaos and panic for the luxury brands, because if the tangible difference in quality is minimal, or at least not proportionate to the price, but the price difference is 90% or 95%, how exactly do you justify that $10,000 price tag to consumers once they've seen behind the curtain? Adding to the luxury brand's troubles is the explosion of the homage market. These aren't direct copies trying to fool people with fake logos. These are watches that openly take inspiration from iconic designs. Think Submariner-inspired dive watches or Royal Oak-inspired sports watches, but use their own branding and sell at drastically lower prices. Brands like San Martin, Pagani Design, and Chronos are creating pieces that deliver 80% of the luxury look and feel for maybe 5% or 10% of the price. They're not hiding what they're doing. They're proud of offering accessible, high-quality alternatives to the masses who simply cannot afford five-figure watches. And the quality keeps improving exponentially. What started as obvious homages are quickly becoming serious contenders in their own right, featuring sapphire crystals, ceramic bezels, reliable Swiss or high-end Japanese movements, and impressive build quality that rivals watches costing thousands more. But remember what we said about buying through legal channels and being cautious. As one factory guide warned about cheap fakes, one to be careful about is that the low-quality movement inside will be sold at a high price. My suggestion is you can try first or buy through a legal way. He's talking about ensuring quality even in the non-luxury space. So this brings us to the big uncomfortable question that is shaking the entire industry to its core. Are luxury watches really overpriced? Technically, yes, if we're only talking about the physical materials, the labor, the machinery, and the pure cost of assembly. As we've seen, the markup is staggering, but this is where it gets philosophical and frankly, where the brands hope their carefully constructed narrative still holds weight. You're not just buying metal and glass when you buy a Rolex, or an Omega, or a Patek Philippe. You are buying access to an exclusive club. You are buying a piece of history, a slice of heritage, a carefully curated brand story. You are buying that specific intangible feeling you get when you walk into a room and someone recognizes what's on your wrist. It's the illusion, the flex, the feeling that you've made it. It's the same reason people buy designer clothes, or luxury cars, or exclusive art. The actual, tangible, functional difference in quality or performance often doesn't remotely justify the massive price gap compared to a high-quality, non-luxury alternative. You're paying for the intangible, the status, the emotional connection, the legacy, the feeling of belonging to an elite group. For some people, that feeling is absolutely priceless, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Luxury has always been about more than just the physical object itself. Is it overpriced? Technically, sure, explains one industry analyst. Emotionally? Depends on how it makes you feel. Now that you know the truth behind the price, you get to decide whether it's worth it. And that's the real power. Not the watch, not the brand. You. So where does this leave the luxury watch industry? At a definitive crossroads, to be sure. The internet has permanently changed the game. When consumers can see inside factories, learn about production costs directly from the source, and order high-quality alternatives, the mystique and the justification for the massive markup begins to fade. Rolex is quietly dropping prices while desperately hoping you don't notice why. Other brands are trying to counter this by heavily increasing their emphasis on genuinely in-house movements and genuine Swiss craftsmanship to shore up their value proposition and justify their prices. Some are even reportedly bringing more component production back to Switzerland, even if it's more expensive, just to strengthen their Swiss-made claims against increasing scrutiny. Meanwhile, microbrands, small independent watch companies, are absolutely flourishing by offering comparable or even superior quality in certain aspects without the weight of massive marketing budgets and legacy overhead. They are often refreshingly transparent about where their components come from and what you're actually paying for. Brands like Baltic, Laurier, and Halios are creating beautiful, desirable timepieces with honest pricing and transparent supply chains, building loyal communities based on value and passion, not just status. Even for those aspiring to own a luxury piece, the landscape is changing. If you want to start adding Rolex to your collection, these are the 5 cheapest Rolex watches that you can buy right now, explains one watch dealer in a recent video showcasing entry points that are still thousands of dollars. The first one we got, the 36mm date just 16220 with the engine turned bezel and is worth around $6,500. The next watch is a 36mm date just 1614 with a blue dial and fluted bezel. This one is priced at around $6,200, but even these entry-level prices, still costing more than some people make in months, are now being questioned by a more educated consumer base that understands the true costs and origins of these watches. The entire pricing structure of the luxury watch industry is under scrutiny like never before. So what should you do with all this information? That entirely depends on what matters most to you. If you value the heritage, the prestige, the brand story, the status, and the emotional experience of wearing a piece from a legendary brand, and you can comfortably afford it, then there is absolutely nothing wrong with investing in a Rolex, an Omega, or a Patek Philippe. Just do so with your eyes wide open about what you're really paying for beyond the physical object. If, however, you care more about the actual quality, the craftsmanship, the technical features, and the aesthetics than the specific name on the dial, then explore the world of microbrands, ethical homages, or even high-end models from respected brands like Seiko, Orient, or Tissot. You might be astonished at the level of quality and value you can get for a fraction of luxury prices. There is no single right or wrong answer here, just different priorities based on your values and your budget. The crucial thing is that you now have the knowledge to make an informed decision, rather than being swayed purely by marketing myths and carefully constructed illusions. For more advanced options, their post and professional models, explains one factory guide, casually showing off what appear to be high-end luxury designs being produced en masse. Let's look at the Submarinas tier. His calm, matter-of-fact tone while displaying designs instantly recognizable as iconic Rolex models speaks volumes about how commonplace this production has become in the real watch capital. The luxury watch industry is facing its moment of truth. As consumers become more educated, connected, and empowered by the internet, brands can no longer rely solely on smoke and mirrors to justify astronomical pricing. Some will adapt by offering more transparency, higher tangible value, or doubling down on verifiable in-house production. Others will likely cling to exclusivity and brand prestige, hoping the status symbol alone is enough. But the days of consumers blindly accepting the luxury watch narrative are undoubtedly over. A major YouTube influencer who was among the first to expose some of these practices put it best: "Don't get it twisted. This isn't new. The entire luxury industry plays this game." And that's really the heart of what we're seeing. The game has been played for decades behind closed doors. But now, thanks to the internet, the whistleblowers, and the global supply chain transparency, consumers can finally see the cards being played. Watches come in different sizes, different styles, and at wildly different price points for many complex reasons. As one guide explains, trying to help people choose, a small dial makes your wrist slimmer, while a larger one makes you a stronger error. First of all, you need to determine your budget, and that truly is what it comes down to now. Your budget, yes, but also what you personally value. Do you value the brand name and the status it confers enough to knowingly pay 5 or 10 times the actual cost of production? Or would you rather get comparable or even superior tangible quality and craftsmanship for a fraction of the price without the famous name on the dial? There's no universal right answer, just what's right for you. So now Rolex is quietly adjusting prices, hoping you don't connect the dots to why. The luxury illusion is undeniably cracking, and consumers are getting smarter by the day. Whether you still think a Rolex is worth it after learning this truth, well, that's entirely up to you, but at least now you know what's really behind that price tag. Do I think Rolex is genuinely trying to be more accessible or benevolent? Probably not. They are, in all likelihood, protecting their meticulously crafted brand image and their profits after getting caught in a scandal they cannot control or publicly acknowledge. The internet has given us an unprecedented glimpse behind the curtain, and what we're seeing is changing the way people think about luxury watches forever. The question is, would you still buy a Rolex knowing what you know now? Would you go for one of these high-quality factory homages or super clones instead? Or would you shift your focus entirely to transparent micro brands that offer exceptional quality along with honesty? The choice is now yours, but at least now it's an informed choice. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the luxury watch industry now? Smash that like button if you found this expose fascinating, and subscribe for more luxury tea, industry secrets, and high-end drama that nobody else is willing to spill. I'll be back next week with another video that the big brands absolutely do not want you to see.